Hello and welcome back to Boring Dead Gaming, where today we're going to be playing some more Mask of the Rose. I'm pretty sure this is where I left off. I seem to remember it auto-saving. Let's have a little look at our journal, perhaps, so we can remind ourselves what's going on. So in the last episode, David Landau had died. Poisoned, suspected poisoning, and our friend Archie, the Scottish lad who we're boarding with and had made several flirtatious moves on, has been taken into custody, accused of the murder. That's about all we kind of know at the moment. Pretty poor. I've still got census pages, interestingly, even though we've been fired by the ministry. And Mr. Pages does seem to be willing to at least see us again, even if we're not going to be in an official capacity. I think we start by recording the past, because this is a free action. This doesn't take up any of our sort of time slots for the day. I reach out for another memory out of that jumbled grab bag. There are things I sometimes remember from that night that cannot have happened. Impossible things. If I concentrate, I can recall... Ooh. How about this one? I glimpsed something in a bit of mirror. In a mirror, I saw something that wasn't my reflection. A woman who might have been Chinese, though I could not be sure. Maybe that's the one we met with the rubbery man yesterday. She sat at a desk in a flooding palace, and the milky water had come level with her knee. She wrote in haste. Her hands were gory with ink. Ink stained and dimmed the firebirds embroidered on her sleeve. The glimpse of me goaded her. The ink bottle upset. Blue-black bloomed in the floodwater. Apologies if you can hear a dog barking. That's actually not mine this time. I think it's a dog outside somewhere. Very, very hot in the UK at the moment, so I'm having to have the windows open and a fan pointed at me. Let's see. I'm going to go and build a story. This ministerial expose thing. We still don't really know what's going on with this, so let's just get out of there. We can't, at the moment, build a story about the murder, which is interesting. And I've read a bit on the Steam forums about that process, so I'll share that sort of as it becomes relevant. I'll keep the black coat on. Let's head out. Head out, as Archie would probably say. I would quite like to... Let's just run through these things that we can do. Oh, Mr. Pages is there again, as is the HMS Ungulate. Okay, so in Thrall Street, I can ask Harjit to show me another route. I was thinking of doing that because there was other places we hadn't been to yet. We could talk to Grizz about the arrest, or find out what Horatia's up to in the basement. So there's so many tasks in such little time. I can see why people are a little bit upset at how little you could do in a single run. I don't know why we'd talk to Milton about the arrest, frankly. No, we have no call to go back there yet. That's an interesting one. I think, until I sort of run out of locations, I'm going to get Harjit to take me somewhere else, I think, because we can try and get a route to... there was a church, I think? Yeah, that's all fine. Good morning, Professor. We're obviously going to flirt with Harjit, naturally, Professor Flirty. I flatter Harjit as the finest thing I've seen in the Neath. We've spoken about this before. You're teasing me now with these remarks. And yet it would be poor etiquette for me to put the conversation... And yet, would it be poor etiquette for me to put the conversation in plainer terms? I sense it would. We must go on not talking about what we are talking about. And what would that be? Nothing. There is a short silence. We turn to the price of mushrooms and the difficulty of finding fuel. These are the subjects that people discuss in the Neath, in order to avoid talking about teeth and snakes and the occupants of our dreams. Yeah, so let's have a look at the new places we could go. So that's kind of like an exterminator, right? Menace eradicator. So I'm going to go to the St Albans Proto-Martyr Church. Do you know how to get to St Albans? It's the parish church, not too far from here. But since the fall, it's been easy to get turned around. Yes, I can show you. This path is more than usually complicated. Several times we stop and retrace our steps. We cannot omit this part of the procedure. Going backwards is part of the route. Here we go. St Alban was the first English martyr. A point of considerable pride to the local vicar is the church of our parish. St Albans Proto-Martyr. This is the closest church to Horatius. You're a bit early for evensong. I was just preparing my sermon. But if you're here in need of guidance... let's bond over our shared difficulty. Permit me to present myself. Flirty. By name and nature. Theophilus Withenwick. It's a Yorkshire name. Time was when I would not have intruded on a stranger. It is curious how etiquette evolves when one discovers one is living in a cave. Oh. Hello. Something has landed on the roof. Yikes. It sees us. Oh. Now it's a bat. Make light of this obvious danger. Oh, it's much larger than the bats we had before. It is possible that they're better fed down here. If you'll permit my saying so, I don't find that a comforting observation. There are, I believe, some species of bat that eat fruit. But if that's what these lived on, they would be as hungry as the rest of us. It's landed there a few times before, especially when the choir is practicing. This is probably our boastfulness, isn't it? Suggest it's drawn to the music. Conceivably, it is musically inclined. Just as well the opera has been suspended in that case. It might have carried off half of society by now. Is it back? The thing up there is gone. The Tenterground synagogue's in better condition than our little church. I've wondered whether that signifies the direction of divine approval. Oh, the Tenterground synagogue. Okay. Flirt with Theophilus. There's something about men of the cloth. Most people I know prefer a man in uniform. Oh, trust me on this. You're the only good thing in a run of bad days. It was good of you to stop in. Lord, see you safely home again. Judging by the clock, I can afford another errand today. Oh, just the one, then. Okay. Got some stuff about him. I think I want to go try and see Archie, because I don't know how to start building a story about the Moida. Something's obviously got to kick that off, hasn't it? Yes, maybe we do that. As tempting as it is to go and flirt with Mr. Pages again, I think that's probably the best thing to go. Should we go and talk to Archie about Archie's arrest? It's a shame while we're doing these conversations that we can't do all of the things that we're offered. Like, we're talking with Archie, why can't we work on our relationship and see if he needs anything and talk about the newspaper report stuff? That would help, you know, tick off tasks a lot easier. Dressed like this, I should only visit the prison hulk with Harjit's escort. Okay. Could change. What do we put on our admiral's hat? And our elegant cloak. And we can lose the lapel. How about that? Alright, tell you what. Why don't we just dress down then? Oh. what about another time? What else could we do then? We could go to the synagogue, introduce ourselves. Might be an idea. I do. Oh no, I went back, didn't I? Oh, actually, I can't go there because I've got no reason to go there. I mean, that's fair enough, I suppose. Well, let's go and visit Rachel after the death. Maybe that'll inspire us to come up with theories. Oh yeah, we'll be slightly more upmarket for her then. Let's get our... Oh, this is, yeah. Able to lend comfort. Let's just leave it at that. Offer my condolences. I'm so sorry for your loss. I know so many other people who have lost someone this year, but mine was murdered. Mine was unnecessary. David's death wasn't an accident or misfortune or fate. At that moment, someone can be heard at the door. There were so many new graves when we buried him. Mr. Milton is here to see you, miss. Here? Now? Do you want me to say you aren't at home? I'm sure her accent's changed at least 1,000,000 times, but that's... No, you can't tell him that. He'll know I'm here and... But maybe... you'd better say...
Don't strain yourself finding an excuse. I promise to depart again before I've entirely worn out my welcome.
Milton, no, please, you're very welcome. He nods to me.
Poor Rachel. I came because I heard your unhappy news.
I ought to be wearing black, but there's been so little time. Assure her that no one minds. No one would expect you to follow the conventions in these circumstances. Oh, many people would expect exactly that. The more difficult it is to conform, the more they care that you do, because it demonstrates obedience. I did have a black gown. My mother died last year, but we handed it down to a cousin on the Landau side. Her husband died in the fall, and she needed something suitable. She used to sit in the parlour after supper, in the second-hand gown and a glossy wig, and drink a great deal of David's wine.
Ah, the widow Nathan. I take it she had much to say about the trials of having no one to support her.
She never did recognise that character as herself. Smile at this story. I join in their amusement.
Phoebe said that you've buried the body.
At Ball's Pond.
Very soon after the death?
It's our tradition.
How do you avoid burying someone alive?
Let's actually encourage Milton to stop distressing her at this point, I think. I think that is enough, Milton.
Yes, you're right. I am asking questions that can offer no consolation. My dear Rachel, there is a pressing matter that I have to see to, or I would not leave again so soon. But rest assured that my thoughts are with you during this interlude.
Encourage her to forgive Milton later. He isn't all bad. I have a bias here. I'll forgive him later. I can't bear his company at the moment. I suppose David would be gratified to know he'd separated us. It's time to go home. Alright. Novelise the affair. Motive could use a scandal. Okay. I still don't really know how to work on my story crafting stuff. It's weird. Let's just go fairly casual to dinner. Feels wrong not having Archie at his seat. We'll have him again home again soon. It's not as simple a matter as I'd hoped, but we'll get to it. Best we eat and not dwell on it. We need our strength if we're to do anything. The vicar's got a new spring in his step. His sermon today was calling for practical action. Said something about faith alone not being enough. I'm no learned doctor of the church, but I feel we had a reformation over this very issue. So what are they talking about? So what are we complimenting? Oh, let's just compliment her. I don't know what about. Excellent. I know that's what you'd prefer to hear in any case. The meditations of our hearts don't go as far as the work of our hands, so I'm glad when a preacher turns his attention that way. There was a fire in his belly I'd not seen before. His preaching was very red-faced. He's not ill, is he? Let's joke at his expense. He didn't see Bill. Perhaps if he didn't dine with so many of the parish. Though it does me no harm if the parish looks after its vicar. Or you either. I hope he isn't ill. I'm not going to St. Dunstan's for Sunday service. The vicar there has notions. For a moment, no one speaks. I tried walking down to Parliament once, that is, to the remains, but I couldn't get to it. Ask why she wants to get there. What are you looking for there? I want to see what became of it. When I ask Mr. Pages, it gives me very confused accounts. And it's not just that my uncle was there on the day of the fall. It seems to me that someone wanted it done away with. The rest of London didn't end up in the river. So I can't help thinking it was put there on purpose. I did try asking Hargett. He said he wouldn't take me because it was difficult and would take a long time. I don't suppose you could find the way. Agree flirtatiously. Ordinarily I would say no, but for you? Alright. I guess we eat. I chew diligently. Dinner reaches an end. I didn't do a lot today. Let's just go straight to sleep, I think. Okay. What I'm thinking this time is maybe another morning, another newspaper. Grizz bought one and the headlines read, London swallowed by Leviathan. Sermon on the wrath of an angry god. Okay. Let's see if we can build a different story. We still can't do this. It's just meaningless, isn't it? Well, I think I'm going to do, I'm going to head to the market. I'm going to see if I can buy some cheap clothes that I could maybe wear to the ship. Let's go back to our coat. That'll do. Call me Ivy. Well, we're gonna flirt with Ivy. One smirk from you, Ivy, and I was lost. It's entirely devastating. Oh my, you talk like you could turn a girl's head. You missed a spot of colour this morning. A man came in with a basket of so-called fish. Mobbed, he was. Sold for 10 guineas each. But they wasn't fish. Cold and wet and slippery, maybe, but not fish. Oh? I don't know what they were. I just know what they weren't. Alright, look for her things for sale. Alright. I think I want to look... Isn't quite what I want, but how much does it cost? It's the kind of thing her own fellow workers might wear after all. Alright. Maybe that's kind of what I'm looking for. I'll give you a penny for that tailor's apron. Don't look like it's worth more. Hoping I might be able to get to the ship with that. Got no more money now. Make my excuses to be going. Ah, well, top a room for me. Whatever that means. I just have time for another errand today, so let's try and go back to the ship. If not, I'll go and see Mr. Pages again, and maybe... maybe get some money for the pages I've already taken. Well, let's try a new apron. Let's just try it. I didn't see any other clothes for sale that would help particularly.
Someone to see you, Archie.
Wow, we're gonna flirt. And in front of Harjit as well. I'm so glad you and I chanced to lodge in the same house. It was a kindness of fate. I'm getting more familiar with the way he looks when he's noticing me.
At night on the ungulate, sometimes you can hear things singing on the water. Oh, you'd heard them before. I don't know what accent he's doing now. Squattish.
I'd heard them before, but never as clear as thus. Ask whether there are words. Are there words? Lyrics?
Aye, most nights I cannot remember them by morning. Just sometimes a half sight of a kingdom underwater. Deep green water, and a throne without a king.
Let it go, I suppose. I hope that's not it. Ask Archie what he did on the day of the murder. Do you have an alibi for the time when David died?
Och, nay. He was in the Landau's house, that's true. Not that it weren't fair crowded, come to that. Rachel was always there as if she did not trust me to dose her brother, which I doubt she's changed her mind on a late. Then there was the housekeeper, and Rachel's gentleman caller came at the morning. Oh, that caused her to do. And what was there in the morning but a postman collecting their letters for delivery to the surface? Which Grizz always said she couldn't arrange for me for love nor money, for all her acquaintance with Mr. Pages. But the Landaus had got mail and was sending their reply again by return of post, just like London never fell at all.
While you were treating David Landau, did the two of you argue?
Nay, not a bit of that. We talked on his illness, and when the news came or mail from the surface, we talked on that. No ill feeling in it.
What was said about the illness? Was he upset with you about the illness, or you with him?
I did what I could, and he knew I did. What was out of my power he knew was beyond me. He did say it was the neath to blame. The food and the air weren't good for him, he said.
What was said about the surface? What did David say about the surface then?
He meant to set up passage back above, soon as could be. He said he knew folk in Livorno, and they would be up the coast from Cumae, and could commission a ship. I cannot say he understood all he said on the matter of ventures and investors, and the laying of the Atlantic telegram cable. He took that for a tale of what to avoid, I reckon. But he did say that when the service was running, if any found another road home, he would give me a ticket aboard.
Ask about natural causes. Do we know it was murder? David Landau was already sickly. If he hadn't been ill, he wouldn't have needed your services in the first place.
His illness was not the sort to kill a man. It was not more than a complaint of the digestion. He should not have ended his life. Certainly not all of a sudden.
What medicines has he been trying to make? What is it you've been trying to make?
There's an old medicine in the pharmaceutical books. Venetian treacle was its common name, Theridac Mithridatium to those who had some teaching. It's said to cure every sort of ailment at once. And war of poisons too, while you're about it. You needed a lot of strange ingredients, but it seemed to me the Neath has new complaints we haven't seen on the surface. So we could do with a bit of a cure-all, as long as we haven't worked out the particular science. I'd been giving it to David Landau, but I ran out the last day. Had to give him a more usual stomach settler instead. Nothing I'd give to anyone and everyone.
A thought occurs to Archie. If Horatia's in poor spirits, you should ask around the vicar. He cheers her up. I think she's a soft spot for him. Though, I'd be grateful if you did not say I said so. Talk about his recollections and past. Let's talk to him as much as we can. I don't know how often it'll be worth going here. The conversation turns to medicine and Archie's hopes for it. In childhood, it seems, he was fascinated with Frankenstein and with the stories of the resurrection men in Edinburgh, pulling bodies out of graves. These elements mingled into curious fantasies of the scientific inventions that he would one day achieve. Adulthood and a bit of experience in the world may have tempered his expectations, but he still turns excitable at possibilities outside our current imaginings. It would be, he says, very useful in our present circumstance if people could be taught to digest rocks, for instance, or to derive more nutrition from moisture in the air. Aye, visit as often as you have a mind to. There's nae much entertainment within. My feelings are stronger than ever. I shake my head to clear it. The ruminations are gone. All is as it was. It isn't long until dinner is served. We're wearing our tailor's cloth, aren't we? Envenomed post. Begged passage to surface arrived by. Okay. All right. Let's put on our familiar cape again. Horatia murmurs over her plate. Her blessing, I think, for the food, and for Archie too. I mentioned that I saw Archie today. Oh, good that you can. I'd go if I could. But the house can't be so easily left these days. It started snowing outside. It isn't ordinary snow. Something has gone very badly at the ministry. Mr. Pages took away a great supply of our papers, together with many of the books and novels it had assembled. All of them taken into the bazaar in wheelbarrows, so many that it attracted quite a crowd. Oh, sorry, that was Grizz. How long has it been Grizz talking? Oh, yeah. Never mind. I thought those were for his personal collection. No, he was always planning to take them to the bazaar, but it didn't go well. And that seemed to concern him even more. He said London might not last long in the snow. Let's reassure her. Don't worry, Mr. Pages is easily agitated. I don't think that means we're safe. Grizz shakes her head. Mr. Pages has a very lively fear of what may happen next, and I cannot put this out of my head. For a moment, no one speaks. Right, let's eat. I chew diligently. Dinner reaches an end. I think we'll go straight to sleep. There doesn't seem much to review, to be honest. I mean, not a lot happens within a day. Day since the fall. It's the end of Confessions. This morning I wake to furious pounding on the front door. Rachel is already talking to Grizz and Horatia by the time I get downstairs. I'm Rachel Landau. I believe you know Archibald Reed, the doctor? Well enough to know he didn't kill anyone. I'm not certain of that, and my brother was certainly dead. But you were quick to make accusations. I've come to ask your help, and maybe to free your friend as well. So I'd best not let myself be drawn. You have a way of freeing Archie? I think David might not be... That is, I think he may not be dead anymore. I keep having dreams that David is awake in his coffin. I can barely close my eyes without thinking of it. If I don't dig him up and make sure, I'll never have any peace. So you've come to us to help dig up your brother's coffin? Yes. I have a shovel in my basement, mostly for coal, but it will do. Ask why she didn't bring Phoebe. Where's Phoebe? At home in bed. She's not up to much lately. She sobs and asks what will become of us and counts her rosary beads. Anyone would think it was her brother that died. You are Archie's friends and you want his name cleared. So you have reason to try to find David alive, even if I mean nothing to you. Yeah, we could take the opportunity, sure. The condition of the corpse might reveal something about the drug used. If I can get a good look at that, I'll have an even easier time with the rest of the inquiry. I'll help you. Thanks, Flirty. Ooh. Here. There's only a fresh mound of earth. You're sure this is the one? It's not marked. I left these stones. Dig. Rachel takes her own turn with a shovel, but it needs a hand from each of us. It's grim, slow work. When we've struck the bottom at last, Grizz climbs into the grave. Well, it's been a few days, aye? Grizz calls up from below. David is still deceased. You're sure? Propose an ingenious way of checking for life. You could put a cold mirror under his nose and see if it fogs. I don't go about with a mirror on my person. She reaches up for a hand out. He hasn't decayed much, there's no smell. But if I touch him, his skin is, well, not alive. Oh. Let's comfort Rachel ourselves. That seems the flirty way. How unpleasant. I'm sorry. It's horrible to have a hope like this snatched away. No, I should have known better. Such a stupid thing, really. The dreams seem so lifelike. Milton said once that the laws of life and death down here are not as they were above. And so I thought, I don't know. Whatever he implied, your brother isn't returning. It's most likely a mistake. I believe Mr. Mirrors is to blame for sending dreams. I guess we go home. It's late and we're all tired. We can go. I'm sorry, it was foolish of me to think there could be anything in it. Grizz and Flirty should see you back home safe. Oh, you don't need to do that. But I'd be grateful for the company. Oh, you've had a shock. Phoebe, we have guests. Oh, we aren't guests. Don't worry about refreshments. I had you digging up graves. The least I can offer you is a pot of tea. Phoebe! Probably asleep, the baggage. Dun dun dun. Hello. I let myself in. You were dead. I was. And now you aren't. Well, not for the past couple of hours. It took a little time to return. And then you weren't here. React with curiosity. How is this possible? I was truly dead, and I have returned. The paths of life and death are not as they were on the surface. That is the only explanation I can find. The question of the grave remains alarming. There was a corpse there, and you don't much resemble it. I didn't awake in my grave. I came to myself standing in the midst of London. At one moment I was crossing the last river, and then the boatman put me back ashore. Ask about the last river. The last river? There was a boat full of the dead, and the boatman carrying us all to the far shore. I found myself there after the agonies of poisoning had ceased. I don't believe I had the pleasure of your acquaintance, Miss, Smith. I am a clerk at the Ministry of Accounting and Recounting. I was helping Miss Landau. We were trying to dig up your corpse. I dreamed you were alive, that you were trapped in there. I knew it might only be grief, but I dreamed it again and again so vividly. We should make a list of what to do. I will alert the Ministry that death appears not to be going as usual. And someone needs to inform Harjit that Mr. Landau is not dead, and therefore Archie is not a murderer. Someone did murder me. I was poisoned. It was excruciating. He really was completely dead. But he isn't dead now, so therefore that is not a murder. Whoever did it might try again. And I can't be sure it wouldn't work. Believe me, I still very much want to know who the culprit was. I'd rather hoped you might know who did it. Lighten the mood as much as possible. For centuries now, people have been wishing murder victims could speak. All sorts of stories about corpses extending a dead hand to point at the wrongdoer. And now we've got one.
Yes, I wouldn't quite know where to point. I hardly ate anything that day, only the medicine that Archie brought me. I wasn't feeling well from the beginning, so I stayed in my room to read. There was quite a parade of visitors in the parlour, I collect.
A parade? I had Ivy Fitzclarity here working on a fitting. She's hardly a visitor, and we were not in the parlour for the most part, though she may have passed through. Question how Archie behaved. And when Archie was with you, he didn't do anything strange? Nothing to make you think he had a sinister intention?
No, his bedside manner was much the usual. He had moments of melancholy. He spoke of being homesick. But otherwise, he only showed a concern to see that I was better, although the flavour of the medicine that day was a trifle different. More like other ordinary medicines I'd had before. He said it was a change in the ingredients available, and that he'd had to compound his own down here. That's a little troubling now I've thought of it.
More than a little. I'm sure it's only a coincidence, and the meaning was just what Archie said it was. Who was here that day? So Miss Fitzclarity was here on the last day, and Archie visited. We know that, as you blamed him for the poisoning. Rachel and Phoebe were at home, and I believe I heard Milton's sticky tones through 3 sets of doors. Milton did pay a morning call. It was not long, and I was preoccupied with Ivy. I held a brief conversation with him and then excused myself. He spoke with Phoebe for a few minutes and then departed again, I believe. Ask what David consumed. And you ate nothing, David?
No, only Archie's medicine. No drinks?
No tea with a bit of flavour and a gritty texture at the bottom of the cup?
I would certainly have noticed.
I thought as much. One always has the sense of poisoning victims being especially unobservant. All right. We should go home and leave you to your conversation. I imagine there's a great deal to say at such a reunion. You will let Constable Singh know that the murder is no longer a murder?
I wouldn't want the matter to be dropped.
It would be the most grotesque miscarriage of justice to hang a man for murder when he did no such thing and his victim is still walking around London. I will tell Constable Singh. Gracious. When you came to us for help, you said it would help us free Archie. It's true, I did. Then pray honour that commitment.
Well, that was a rash promise.
It seemed reasonable, and I needed help. Can you see any of our cousins agreeing to come down and take a turn with the shovel?
No, especially not the Landau cousins.
Such a betrayal of tradition. But thank you, and give my thanks to Miss Smith as well. You were truly a great assistance in a terrible time. If it was Archie who gave the fatal dose, then something will have to be done. But of course we'll say it wasn't murder.
You may say it wasn't.
Yikes. Season of Confessions has finished. Rachel Landau has sent a note of thanks. Wait a few days before paying a visit. There's no rule for how soon to visit the deceased after they return to life. He'll need to recover. Never mind. At least Archie will be home soon. Archie does not return. His place remains empty. Horatia cooks him a portion, but he never comes to eat it. After 4 days, Grizz argues her out of doing it any more on the grounds that I worked hard to pay my rent. And my contribution, says Grizz, shouldn't be squandered on sentimental display. Since the fall, every season is freshly alien. The season of Confessions goes out, taking with it many helpful self-deceits. Yule brings the first full horror of the Neath. People stop pretending when an animal speaks that it was imagination. Dogs, it's true, still say very little. This is what passes for tact among dogs. Cats have no such compunctions. On the rooftops they trade in human secrets, and their side glances dare us to object. Hypocritical gossips that we are. So it's been, what was it, 267, 24 days? Interesting. Season of Yule.
It's as I explained to Horatia and to Lady Griselda. By the terms of the law, a murder was still committed.
Oh, I'll ask him about Archie's condition. Is he well? Prison is not kind.
So far as I can tell, Archie is happier on the ungulate than he was before. He is a hero to the other prisoners. The trial will still be held just before Christmas. There is nothing I can do. There is nothing the Landaus can do, either. Miss Landau did send a letter to the court to explain her brother's change of circumstance.
What's Harjit tried so far? What exactly did you do?
I've spoken to everyone I could find. I woke an old judge from his bed in the middle of the night. He did not take it kindly.
Right, thank him for his efforts. Thank you for trying.
It was all I could do. Archie will be tried. If we can account for his innocence, he may be freed. If we find evidence that someone else was involved, they may be added to the trial. If you find anything, if you had a good explanation for how it wasn't Archie.
Explore Harjit's feelings about Archie in light of this. I would have thought you were too fond of Archie to believe he could do something like this.
I fear it still seems very possible that he did do it. I would merely prefer to believe that he didn't.
I'll bring any evidence to him. You'll be the first to know.
Thank you.
I'll need to craft my theories the way Archie showed me. If I can't build a finished plan, I'll at least be able to come up with some hypotheses. Crafting theories about an unknown motive or method will give me the right questions, and let me get answers out of people. The more I learn, the more I'll be able to refine what I ask, or the accusations I'm ready to make.
I am always glad to visit Archie on the HMS Ungulate with you.
Let's go somewhere new. Let's go... Ooh, Sunken Parliament. I'd like to go to the Menace Eradicator shop. He might have poisons there, is what I'm thinking. Find any interesting places today?
There's a Menace Eradicator shop around the corner in that direction.
He points towards a couple of buildings. I can't see the path between them at first. It takes a minute of staring before I notice the alley that cuts between. The walk is easier this time than some of our previous lessons. At first, I think I'm becoming better at route finding. Then Harjit mentions that the streets are becoming easier. The street signs change less frequently now. Ferret shop. Ferret is the local menace eradicator, and a significant need for their services lately. The sign outside this shop says it belongs to Ferret. This, presumably, is them. I don't know if the game is intentionally referring to Ferret as a they, them, or not. We'll see as we go. So far, it's had the opportunity twice to mention them and use that way of speaking, which is interesting.
Here for a spot of eradication? Suffering from undesired company in your place of lodging by any chance?
Be friendly. It's interesting it's not asking us to change clothes at all. A pleasure to make your acquaintance. You must allow me to make myself known to you. Flirty.
Now, Ferret, but you could see that on the shop window.
Though you might not want to take my word for it. Not long ago I met someone who introduced himself as the Marquis of Prickfinger Waste.
Yeah, a pleasure to meet you. Oh, I wasn't expecting you until this evening. I'm seeing the customers, as you can see.
Hello, Professor. I already know the customer. I'm just by with a warning about the pub at the corner.
More than usually infested, is it?
If the publican hires you to clear the place, bring help. And fire.
Silently realise what relationship I want with Harjit. Yeah, okay. I contemplate Harjit. Maybe there's more to know about him. He has his own purpose walking the streets. Perhaps it is worth discovering how he spends his time. Find out where Harjit is going, okay?
Well, that'll be spiders.
Point out how much Harjit does for the neighbourhood. Isn't Harjit great? Good of him to warn you, he works hard for this neighbourhood.
Yes, this is his place and I have mine. Back to business though, eh? What else can I do for you?
Well, we're going to flirt with Ferret. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. Ferret is plainly not in the mood for flirtation. Ferret considers whether there's anything to add.
Well, let's see your pockets before you go then. Not nicked anything you shouldn't have done. Very well, can't be too careful in these parts.
Oh, leaves me time for another errand. Kind of hope to press him for poison use, but I'm sure we'll probably get another opportunity to do that. We can build another story now, presumably for the investigation. Little Christmas cards now. Let's do the one more errand today, and I'm not inclined to do these see if they need anything ones. Oh, Dave is at the synagogue. That's interesting. We could trail Harjit. I was thinking of going back to Pages. Let's do that one later. I want to go back to Mr. Pages, I think. Will he give us money for this? I just don't... Let's try it. I need money. I haven't found another way to make it yet. This is fine. Grizz and I make the journey efficiently. She is lost in her own thoughts for part of the time. I'm telling you that our friend was arrested by mistake. The Ministry of Accounting and Recounting must get him released.
The Ministry of Accounting and Recounting does not attend to the constabulary of the human courts of law.
If we don't do something, Archie might be convicted of murder.
Permanent murder?
Point out that impermanent murder has not stopped Archie's trial. Not permanent, it would seem, though that has not deterred the law. They intend to try him regardless. Pages seems almost disappointed.
Oh, the emergency under Khan Grizz remains obscurated to me. Your friend did not kill anyone, permanently or otherwise, but the Old Bailey is displeased with him. If it finds him to be unguilty, all is well. If it convicts him in error, what will it do?
He'll be hanged.
From what?
From a gibbet by the neck until dead.
Oh, discomfortable. Should this eventuation come to pass, we will send him a basket of solace fruits.
Ask who controls the courts. Who does oversee the courts? The Old Bailey is a crown court. It used to rule in the Queen's name.
If Her Majesty wishes to commute the sanctification, we will not prevent her.
Given Her Majesty hasn't been seen outside the palace since the fall, she'd never grant me a hearing.
One must allow for her confusatory situation in being a widow and not widow.
She seemed sharp enough when I was presented to her. She must have undergone a very significant decline since.
She has.
Who oversees the constables? Seems to me that the constables do the bidding of the ministries.
They do, but it is Mr. Fires who watches over them. I do not command constables.
Could we speak with Mr. Fires? Maybe we could speak to him in that case.
It is not in London at the present.
Where is he then?
It does not inform me of his peregrinations.
But you know enough to know where he isn't.
I have seen that reversal of his dirigible to the roof. I infrated Mr. Fires is therefore currently above.
Alright, I don't want to make any demands of him. Let's bring this debate to a close. It seems to have reached an impasse, but there are several ways to end matters. Tell Mr. Pages not to worry about Grizz's demands. Grizz has the wrong idea of what is possible. We will plan some other way of helping our friend. She should not have involved you. In difficult times, we explore every avenue. I can tell that I chose the wrong moment. Mr. Pages looks out of sorts.
The undercurrent is capable of reason.
Thank you.
It is not said to flatter you. Do you have anything more?
Oh, good. We might get some money here. Horatia. I can take my penny without flinching under its stare.
This one is of interest. Familificent, lacking auxiliary.
I don't have a filing index for that combination.
I will designate a sigil and a suitable ink.
The colours on the last sigil burn my eyes.
Do you have anything more?
Milton? I've got used to the transaction now.
This one is not a citizen of London. He will come from points west and is not capable of love.
Grizz reaches for the pages, frowning.
It should be filed among honey and roses. Do you have anything more?
Virginia? The trick is not to look at the back of the penny at all.
There are 7 forms thus far. This should be commemorated. Grizz has indicated the aesthetic propriety of ruinous places. That is what is broken inspires happiness and warmth of heart. There is something I wish to show you.
It leads me out of the ministry. The people in the streets part when we approach. No one troubles us. When we come to the edge of the stolen river, it summons a boat with a crook of its claw. Ooh.
Does it have effect? Does it enhearten you? Grizz indicated that the moon was also required. But the moon was cast out of the belly of the Neath. It is unwise to stay. We will depart. You have seen what I wish to show.
The sunken parliament. Hey, we got there anyway. All that remains of the houses. The building has been in the middle of the river since the fall. Cool. Well done, Miss Pages. Pages goes through the pages of this census with growing interest, studying some pages closely. Then suddenly it stops and throws the sheaf on its desk.
She is known to us. She is not from the 5th city at all, nor even the 1st. Hell exchanged its leaders late in the 4th city. We were otherwise occupied. We are unfamiliar with the newcomers. We surmise she is ambitious or in exilement.
That is enough of my official duties for the moment. What do the masters know about death? You know David Landau returned from the dead?
He is not alone in this. The boatman has been active.
London has been present here for many months. David Landau was hardly the first to die.
London slowly settles into the influence of the Neath. The return of the dead, the articulacy of beasts, these will become more common.
Did the masters know that would happen?
Mr. Mirrors performed the necessary
I can't even say that word. Instructicants.
What might be expected and what ought to be done. London did not render attention.
Draw impolite conclusions about Mr. Mirrors. It seems Mr. Mirrors is not gifted in making its information public.
Mr. Mirrors operates in the realm of somnolation.
In nightmares of burial and nightmares of the grave. In nightmares like the one that brought Rachel Landau to our front door with a shovel.
I said the written word would be more effectuant. Mr. Mirrors declared me to be unreliable in matters of paper and ink. It accused me of inviscerance, parchmentary, agant habituance. Oh.
I say farewell to Mr. Pages. Pages does not reply at all. It is at times difficult to tell whether Mr. Pages is intentionally ill-mannered or simply has no interest in discovering what the proper etiquette might be. The hallways outside are hushed, except that if I listen closely there is a sound like something walking with an uneven gait. In shoes, or perhaps its toenails click on a polished floor. By now, Horatio will be wondering where I am. Let's change our clothes. We're still wearing our apron, I think. Oh no, we did change into that. That's fair enough. Let's put our little lapel on. And our Admiral's hat we've hardly worn. And we'll change to our coat as well. There we go. That's a nice dinner outfit.
Ah, Flirty. There's a newcomer to the house. You might find it amusing, I suppose. It is an unusual situation.
You look solemn, Horatia. The last time when you told us the supply of cheese had run out.
I know we've had a happy little group here, but the time had come. I have taken in a new lodger.
I'm doing my best to get Archie sent home.
You haven't yet, and we don't know how long it will take.
No, but I don't think it's time to give up and move on. React enthusiastically. More people to flirt with. How delightful. I'm sure we'll enjoy having new conversation at the table.
As for that, I'm not sure yet whether he'll join us at supper. He does not eat. You should also know he's, a clay man, he calls it. Looks like a statue, but he's polite and clothed before you get any notions, Flirty.
Make light of the situation. His board won't come to much then, I suppose.
I understand that he doesn't eat, no. But he does pay rent.
Even if he's the most well-behaved statue you've ever met. It's a risk, it will draw attention, and I don't see the need. Everything we do reflects on Archie now.
I need someone who can do for me outside the house. Or hadn't you noticed that I can't go outside anymore?
I know you don't go out much. I suppose the last time I saw you go out was to the graveyard.
I don't anymore. I do not step through our front door. But the trade is, I can promise you our new lodger won't do anything I don't know about.
Here he is.
Forgive my clumsy interpolation into your domestic idyll. I wish to make myself known to you. I am...
He makes a noise like rain running down limestone.
I believe the best translation is moss. I hope to learn more about this new city. It is very different from my native Polythreme.
Oh, what is Polythreme like, Mr. Moss?
It is an island far across the sea. Everything has a voice there. My king, he of 100 hearts, reigns over us all. It is often harmonious. There is very little screaming.
Silence isn't the same as peace, but I'll take your word on it for the moment. I hope you'll find rest here.
If rest is indeed all Mr. Moss is looking for. I silently realised the relationship I want. It's probably a bit much. Comment admiringly on Moss's form. We'll have a use for your strength, Mr. Moss.
In Polythreme, my chief function was as an adornment. The shovels, hoists, and pillars would have taken my attempts to assist very dimly. But then I suppose you are made of meat. Very fine meat, I must add. But in comparison, I can see how you might think me strong.
What motivates a clay man to reside in a boarding house in the first instance? I assume you neither eat nor sleep. The accommodations would seem to be of little value to you.
Griselda!
Oh, it is an honest question. This seems a happy place.
It makes a sound like water flowing through the spout of a gargoyle.
Oh, I was not made for deceit. The king did not fashion these lips for lies. I sought a man in the previous city. I did not find him. I believe he was at odds with the Khans.
The who?
I have heard they call themselves masters now. They style themselves after their latest acquisition. But the man is gone and everything has changed. I hope to find my place and my purpose once more.
Oh dear, no, we're not going to do that. Let's support Horatia and be charitable to Moss. Perhaps we should let Mr. Moss settle in before we bombard him with questions.
Quite right. I'm glad someone retains a sense of manners.
In Polythreme, we are always in union. A polyphony makes a pleasant change. I was looking for someone in the last city. Your falling came as a surprise.
There, you see, Mr. Moss requires his rest.
I have no wish to be a burden. In Polythreme, what the king wishes to occur, occurs. But there are 3 of you. I will wait for you to reach an accord. I require respite rather than shelter. It will not be an undue inconvenience if I am better to look elsewhere.
And he is meant to keep us safe, is he?
If he were a housebreaker, I'd give him a wide... Oh, if I were a housebreaker, I'd give him a wide berth. Besides, Harjit said he considered it his obligation to help Mr. Moss find a home. That it was a good deed to place him here.
If Harjit thinks the deed makes up for If Harjit thinks the deed makes up for arresting Archie, I have some questions about the moral accounting.
Oh, not everyone tallies their good and bad deeds in a double-entry ledger book, Lady Griselda. Whatever the Ministry may have told you. But he's right. If we're all to rub along here, you all need to be comfortable with our new lodger. You live here just as much as I do.
I think you're likely to be outvoted, Horatia. No one has a better heart than you. But we must think of Archie. We caught suspicion and perhaps the Master's anger. If Archie were here, I'd say different. Support Moss staying. I think we have room for one more.
Ah, I shall go and tell Mr. Moss the good news, and let him know he has you to thank.
On your heads be it if this goes awry, but I'll do what I can to smooth things over if the Ministry involves itself. Moss. A shape coalesces in the attic. Or more accurately, looms. Oh!
I am sorry if I startled you. I hoped we might become better acquainted. And I have several questions regarding my tenancy here. I would have asked the others, but Mrs. Chapman was dozing, and Miss Smith told me she was engaged in important business. I did not realize business constituted the imbibing of wine. I have much to learn. Do let me know when I make an error of etiquette. I am sure there shall be many.
Suggest I'm more than happy to see him. I live for surprise guests.
Oh dear. I hope you are not regularly interrupted. I am always available if required. I've noticed Londoners are averse to poor behaviour when I am present. I cannot think why. I am afraid I did have a question. In Polythreme, our king rang a hollow bronze chime to summon us when required. His favoured servants all bear his own image, so both our station and our duties are clear to all. I am afraid I find the etiquette here more confusing. I hoped you could explain my duties as a lodger in Mrs. Chapman's guest house.
She often needs errands done. That might be nice for her. Mrs. Chapman does not leave the house. If you can serve her as a messenger outside, that would assist her.
I had noted her affinity with the building. It is a relationship I have not observed in Polythreme, but all the same, more like home than most things in Londinium. This seems in line with my expectations. I had one last question, forgive me, but I wondered your thoughts on my behaviour thus far. I hoped to be well liked here, if you could advise me.
He should simply be himself. He's done all right, right? You should not try to be anything more than you are.
Do you mean just as I am? Without reference to my king as my exemplar?
He makes a sound like the crumbling of lichen on stone.
It is against what I have learned before. But this is a new city. I must adapt. Good night, as they seem to say here. A phrasing that confuses me. It is always night here.
We could try reviewing the day in our journal. We haven't done that for a while. 291 days since the fall. Got a bit of walking around money now. That's nice. Used up all our census pages, and I don't think we're going to be able to collect any others. Goals. Find out where Harjit's going. Provide Harjit with a suspect. We've got to craft a murder case. We haven't done any of that yet. We'll do that in the next episode. Quick mention on the murder investigation, actually, because as I said earlier, I've been reading about it on the Steam forums, and it's a little bit counterintuitive currently, as I understand it, in that rather than going out and finding clues and then adding them into a story, it's more about conjuring up a theory using the story crafter, and then sort of talking to Harjit about it, talking to the suspects, like asking people about your theory in the hope of proving it right or wrong. which seems sort of the very opposite of something you'd do in like a normal detective game, like say, Sherlock Holmes, for instance. But knowing that, we'll go into that next episode. We'll come up with a story. I'm not going to make a particularly outlandish one, just one that kind of makes sense to me, because I think you can, again, slightly from what I've read in the comments, slightly confuse the story creator if you make a lot of theories. Then when you go and talk to people, you don't get to choose which theory you ask them about. So like, it'll pick at random, and you might have done one that was completely insane just to play around with the function of that. But yeah, we'll have a little go at that. I don't know whether we're going to be able to free Archie, because it does sound like it's quite complicated. But I'm going to, yeah, we'll try as best we can and see where that goes. But it is Professor Flirty playthrough, so we're going to be meeting lots of people and flirting with them and just seeing where it goes. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Mask of the Rose. If you did, then please do hit the thumbs up button. That would be amazing, as would leaving me a comment and let me know what you think. In terms of the various threads and people and characters that we've picked out, are there any ones that you're particularly into me exploring in greater detail? I think for myself, I'd like to follow Harjit. I'd like to go to the Parliament ruins, and I'd like to do a bit of the murder investigation. But if there's anything else you kind of want me to look into, let me know, and I'll do my best to accommodate. Unlike a lot of my series, I'm not really pre-recording this much. I'm kind of, partly because I'm waiting to see if the update's released within this playthrough, but also to be maybe more reactive with suggestions. So, so let me know in the comments, and then when I come to film this tomorrow, the next one, can react to those a little bit. And yeah, if you're watching this and haven't already subscribed to the channel, it'd be amazing if you could do so. It'd be great to have you around on the channel. So thanks very much once again, and I hope to see you next time for more Mask of the Rose. Bye for now.